Well, hello everyone, and welcome. Once again, my name is John Gambin. I've created a video here with a little bit of a photo so you can see who's on the other end of talking to you. I'm working from home instead of going into the office this week, so I wanted to put together some lecture that continues with this material out of our chapter. Now, if you've done everything I've asked, you hopefully have turned around and watched the lecture video and looked through the ebook on material related to job descriptions and job analysis. Why we need to do a job analysis, what we gain from a job analysis, from the legal to the training to many other factors, and all the ways that we go about doing that kind of stuff. Okay. Now I want to turn around and give you a very brief video on what is called job evaluation, which really in essence is all about determining pay. That's what this one is about, determining the pay rate. Let's say you've come up with a new job and you need to determine basically what the pay rate is going to be for that job, what is the starting pay, what is the pay range, and things like that. So that's what I want to talk about here. So first of all, let's just turn around and do a little bit of definition here and talk about what I mean by job evaluation, okay? As you see there, job evaluation is sort of the process of determining how much to pay in a given job. What is a job worth? That's what job evaluation is really all about. When you have a job that is an entry-level job, doesn't require very much to get started, of course you might start around minimum wage, maybe a little bit more than that, depending upon the competitiveness of the area for supply and demand of labor and things like that. But what if we're talking jobs that are a little bit more complex? What if we're talking about jobs that require past experience, certification, prior training, levels of education, and things of that sort? Then it gets to be a little bit more work to determine the proper pay. And that's what we're going to mention here. Now, there are two methods to determining pay, okay? And I will go through these in detail. You see it right here. One way to determine the value of a given job is to look within the company and determine pay internally. There are steps that can be taken, and there's reasons to do this, and I'll mention them here shortly. Or you can turn around and determine the given value, what a job is worth, what you should start off in terms of beginning pay or the pay rate or the range. You can also do it externally. So let's go ahead and talk about these two facets. First of all, into determining pay from within, okay? This is also known as AKA internal pay equity. The reason we would go to this much trouble, and this one is a bit more complex in the steps to make it happen, is if we have a job that really has no equal, no comparison. Maybe it's a brand new position and you are part of a company that is not offering any similar position to that. No one in the community, no other rival business nearby is doing what you're doing. And so you're not quite sure what would be the right dollar amount to offer to get someone to come to such a job. You can determine the pay from within using this internal pay equity approach. All right. So how do you do that? As I said, it's a little complex and we're not going to go through all the details here. Your ebook does talk about this and I definitely want you to look at it, but I'm just going to give you an overview because that's what I want you to have. All right. Basically, step number one, if you're going to turn around and try and determine the starting wage or the starting pay range for a given job, is you've got to determine what factors make up the job, okay? By compensable factors. By compensable factors, what I'm referring to, things that are very important to the job that can influence compensation. Keep that in mind. That might be a good quiz question sometime. Compensable factors, okay? For example, how much responsibility is there in the job? Are you responsible for no one but yourself? Are you responsible for 3 to 5 people? Are you responsible for somewhere between 50 and 100 people? And there's areas in between. What educational requirements are there? What level of experience do you need to have, or is that important? What are the working conditions? You might consider the physical demands of the job. You might consider the mental demands of the job. So first thing you need to do is decide what compensable factors do come into play, okay, and things like that. And be aware, you're going to, if you start bouncing this off managers within the business, if you start bouncing this off, you're in human resources and you're sharing this with people, may disagree. Or they may say, well, yeah, this is important, but not very. And someone else says, no, that's extremely important. And just expect that. That's going to happen. There's going to be disagreement. And you work as a team to sit down and say, okay, we've got to come to an agreement here if we're going to make this work. And a lot of times, that's how it gets resolved in that regard. Okay. So step number one is just determine what factors make up the job. Number two, we need to determine the specifics of some of those factors, okay? Basically, you mentioned education. What level of education do you expect for this job? Is a person going to need a bachelor's? Are they going to need a master's degree? Are they going to need just a certificate? Are they going to need an associate's degree? Are they going to need a PhD or something like that? You might agree that experience is in there, but now you have to decide how much. 1 to 3 years experience, 5 years experience, 15 plus years experience. Now that you've determined which factors, how much of each factor comes into play. And that may be a process of sitting down with others and interviewing and asking the people that are around those individuals, their supervisors, things like that, to get a feel for what they think would be best to make that happen. Okay. And then finally, you must determine which compensable factors are most important, which are least important, okay? Now that's best accomplished, all right, level of importance. You can ask through surveys. There is some mathematical formulas that you can use where you ask people to turn around, managers, your team of people, a person from each department who sits down and helps you. And the book talks about these formulas. But honestly, I'm not going to get into them here. They're a bit complex for just the Psych 255 class. I'm not trying to dumb down the material or say you can't handle it. But if you take a higher level, senior level class in industrial organizational psychology of work, you start to learn those statistics a whole lot more. All right. So for now, just realize these three factors. You have to determine what factors are important. Number two, how much of each of those factors you need. And number three, rank them, rate them and rank them. Okay. Determining pay from within. The other thing you can do is determine pay externally. Okay. Now, this is a much simpler approach, assuming that you can make this happen. When you determine pay externally, as you see there, what you do is you want to see what other people in the community, in your area, in your region are getting paid for the same job, okay? And you might find that if you're underpaying people and things like that, that can be a big problem. So I'll give you the example. We have, multiple hospitals here in the Springfield area. And if one hospital is paying nurses a starting wage of X amount of dollars, and the other hospital is paying a starting wage that's $5,000 to $15,000 underneath that, and they don't pay attention to starting wages, you're going to lose people. You're not going to get people to start with because individuals are not dumb. They're going to check that out. Or if they do start with your hospital, they may turn around after a year or so on, and then they leave and go somewhere else because they know that they're being underpaid. So how do you turn around and determine externally the pay? A lot of times your book suggests doing your own survey. Doing your own survey of area businesses, asking these people, hey, this is what we're paying, what are you paying, and so on. Folks, I've been in this world long enough to know that a lot of businesses don't really want to jump up and share that. They know you're going to figure it out, but that doesn't mean that they're going to lay their entire pay scale in front of you so you can compare and possibly, supersede them and stuff like that. The best way to get this information externally is through a third party. There are businesses, there are consulting firms, there are companies that will survey a community to come up with an idea of what is the average pay for this job, what is the average pay for that job, what is the average starting pay for this career or that career, and so on. They may even come up with the average salary, the median salary, the upper range, the lower range, and so on. You a lot of times can go purchase that data if you are a big company and you need to know it. All right. A lot of times, sometimes the city has actually done these surveys as well because they want to try and make, the city of Springfield has done that. But what they do is they approach a third party consulting firm to do it for them because they don't have people within their organization to do it. And so you find out the data that way. You find out the value of a job like the nursing jobs, or people starting off entry level in the marketing field or something of that sort, and then you know where you need to put yourself to be competitive. Okay, so really that's it. That's the elements of external and internal pay, equity, and job evaluation. You don't want to go to all the trouble of putting together the job description, conducting the analysis, and then not knowing what to pay. So these are a couple of ways to do it and make it simple. All right, that's all I've got for now. Take care.